Do you believe you found the skeleton? How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
All right, hello everybody. I'm back. I was on a bit of a vacation, so you might have noticed that there wasn't a live show on Saturday. Instead, I uploaded a video that I made with the man himself, Jackson Wheat, who's also here. Say hello, Jackson.
It is me, Yee.
Yeah, so I uploaded and premiered, instead of doing a live stream on Saturday, our Cenozoic Part 2 episode.
That was fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, so now the entire history of Earth is on both of our channels.
Nice.
Yeah, or at least the history of life on Earth. I don't remember how.
Taking over the Earth.
There you go. Take that, Earth.
Yeah.
So yep, I took a little vacation. I flew back into Tucson today, and I am a little tired, but that's okay. I'm sure that both Jacksons will energize me along with this beer, because I am drinking some Sam Adams Summer Ale. It's a citrus wheat ale, I guess. I don't know. It's just their seasonal whatever it is.
Is it woke beer?
I don't know.
I only drink woke beer.
You only drink woke beer.
I started drinking just to drink woke beer.
There you go. I'm sure Sam Adams is at least as woke as any other mega corporation who thinks that pretending to care about social issues will net them more customers.
All right, you got me there.
Yeah, because let's be honest, that's what Anheuser-Busch is doing.
That is in fact what it's doing.
If they thought they could get more money by being mean to trans people rather than having trans people advertise for them, they would absolutely do that.
That is very true.
There you go.
What a world we live in.
Right. All right. So, we are here to continue our discussion of Dr. Charles Jackson and how he doesn't understand science or stars or, most anything else. Yeah, that's about Titillac Rosie for 20,000 Vietnamese dong, I think. Says, I changed this channel just to tout a missing link. Oh yes, you did. You changed the name. Yeah, to Titillac Rosie instead of and I love that your new profile picture is Tiktaalik, but with Andrew Snelling's face on it, but not just the real Andrew Snelling. The Andrew Snelling I made with the gigantic nose for Andrew Snelling is a liar. Which is just it's the best Snelling. So thank you very much. It really is. All right, so before we get into that, though, first I want to say that Charles Jackson is just about to misdefine science. He's already gotten wrong how nuclear fusion works, how star formation works, how the evolution of stars work, how the age of stars work, and probably some more things. Let's see. So yeah, and now he's going to misdefine science, I'm pretty sure. Before we get into that, let's talk about the drinking rules, because we got drinking rules here. So first of all, we take a drink whenever Charles Jackson says something that's just so stupid we kind of have to in order to cool our brains down. That's usually going to be our most common one. However, we also take a drink anytime he gets something factually correct that he doesn't just read off of, like, a quotation, right? It's going to come out of his head. He actually manages to get something right, take a drink for it. We'll also take a drink if he mentions the National Socialist German Workers' Party or prominent members or important activities thereof, especially if it was, say, during the first half of the 20th century. Let's see. Oh, yes, Nestle20. I have heard that Sal is very disappointed in me insulting his teacher. I plan on addressing that in the coming weeks. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Yeah. Now, if it's not clear what the next point that Charles Jackson is going to make, but both, or if either Jackson or I have a prediction about it, though, we get that right, we'll take a drink for confirmed prediction. We'll also take a drink if Charles Jackson tells a story that didn't happen or a joke that didn't land. We will also take a drink if he produces what I like to call a Trojan source, and no, I did not come up with that. A Trojan source is a source that when you check on the source being cited, rather than supporting the claim being made, it directly contradicts the claim being made. That's most prominent with Randy Galuzza, but it's definitely a thing that creationists like to do just overall. But those are the ways that we'll drink sort of because of Charles Jackson. There are also a number of ways we'll drink otherwise. So, for instance, if anyone super chats anything to the effect that AIG is a bag of dicks, we will take a drink. And that is, of course, because AIG are notorious copyright trolls who will copyright claim virtually anything, including their own videos. Including footage from their own videos in which they make fair use of other material. That's happened to me. They've claimed a video that I was using on the grounds of fair use that themselves, or that my clips of them contain their own use of fair use. So, lots of hypocrisy there. Don Giovanni for $5 says, "Get in line. Queries in Revelation is an unrefrigerated banana boat on its way to an island in the sun. Smells exactly like you imagine." All right, there's our first drink. Also, if any super chat or membership milestone chat includes one of the 3 kaiju emojis that you can get by being a member, we'll take a drink for that, and that's of any amount. Also, every gifted membership will get a drink. So if you send 5 gift memberships, we'll take 5 drinks. If you send 15, we'll take 15 drinks. That's probably one of the more cost-effective ways to make me drink a whole bunch. But also, sometimes, audibly, you'll hear Godzilla or Mothra come through. When that happens, we'll take a drink for that too. Jackson, do you know if I've forgotten any?
Doesn't sound like it.
I don't think I have either. If I have, whatever, we'll drink for it anyway. Plus, look, the drinking is just an excuse for a little bit of fun. So, it's not super strict. I can just say, we'll drink for that, if I like it enough. Or dislike it enough, for that matter. All right, here we go. Is everybody ready for some bad Jackson?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, here we go.
See, science, the word science just means knowledge. It doesn't, it can be full of philosophy.
I really hate the argument from etymology that science just means knowledge. I'm going to take a drink, right? There are things that you can know that are not scientific. For instance, math per se is not science. We don't gain new mathematical knowledge generally from empirical checks, right? The reason that a triangle in a Euclidean space has internal angles equal to 180 has nothing to do with people going out into nature, measuring triangles with their little compasses, or not compasses, protractors, yeah, and then coming back to report the numbers that they got. It's not what's happening. So, science is both a body of knowledge and the method through which that particular body of knowledge was acquired, which involves empiricism and using induction based on empirical evidence to form tentative conclusions. Now, there's more to it than that, but it's not just the same thing as knowledge. There are ways to gain knowledge that are not science and that are perfectly valid. And there are things that you can use with science, that you can do in science that does not actually end up generating any knowledge because your results are inconclusive or something like that. Doesn't mean you didn't do knowledge. Jackson, you have anything you want to toss in there?
And that sounds pretty good. They typically add that science is observational, testable, repeatable, and then they completely misconstrue what is meant by observational. So
yeah, Cyber Cobra kind of official. Because if etymology is the font of all knowledge, Bad Jackson's dad is Jack Jackson, yes? Yeah, he would have to be. Because, the etymology of Jackson implies that Charles Jackson, here, his father's name, has to at least be Jack. Maybe his name is Jack something else other than Jackson, but yeah.
Jack the Father.
Yeah.
Jack the Father, Jack the Son, and Jack the Holy Ghost.
Actually, Nestle 20, remind me when we're sort of wrapping up in the last 20 minutes or so to mention the Sal being disappointed in me again, because I do have things I want to say.
It can be full of ideas, yes, but when you actually make your list at the end of the day of what works and doesn't, what equations function and help us build suspension bridges and computers and space shuttles, that's the part that actually we know works. Theoretical science is fun, but...
Hey, you know what's fun about evolution? we can use it to do things like generate new medicines or make predictions about the outcome of genetic studies in organisms whose genomes haven't been sequenced.
Whoa.
It's almost like we know it works. So I'm gonna take a drink for just how stupid it is pretending that evolution is not something that can be tested in the present, or that it can't produce predictions about the present, or technologies in the present. Because that's super wrong.
We can't be dogmatic about things like that. And I find dogmatism in stellar evolution theory. 1976, there is general belief that stars are forming by gravitational collapse. In spite of vigorous efforts, no one has yet found any observational indication of confirmation. Thus, the generally accepted theory of stellar formation may be one of 100 unsupported dogmas which constitute a large part of present-day astrophysics.
Is that a quotation from something? Because it doesn't sound like his words, but I don't know what it would be a quotation of.
Now, that's an old quote, but I got one from the 2000s.
Oh, so that's an old quote, but he's got one from the 2000s. So, okay, well, yeah. In 1976, I am not at all surprised that there hadn't yet been a lack of observations of, like, new stars forming. It's been a while, hasn't it? Been like
it's been a little bit.
What, almost 40 years?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get to that too. I'm just showing you there's a big long history of people saying, you know, that's our theory, but we really have never seen it, and we really don't know how it could even work. Let's just keep working on it. Precisely how a section of interstellar cloud collapses gravitationally into a star is still a challenging theoretical problem. Astronomers have yet to find an interstellar cloud in the actual process of collapse.
Hey, we're only 30 years into the past. Hey, what? I'm going to take a drink, and then we're going to explain why there being an open question is not the same thing as therefore it couldn't happen naturalistically, and it has to be God. So there's that drink. So let's think about this, right? We still don't really know how tornadoes form. We have ideas, and we know which circumstances can lead to likely tornado formation. We don't actually have a really in-depth knowledge of the exact way that they form. So I could say that therefore they can't form naturally, just like stars, and therefore all tornadoes are the direct wrath of God visited upon mostly people in the Midwest, apparently. I don't know what they did.
They know what they did.
They know what they did. Take that, Maddie, in the chat. This is all your fault. You sinful, sinful person. So we could do that, but also let's remember, at one point, the same thing was true about all forms of weather. No one knew what made it rain. No one knew what made it gusty. No one knew what made it snow or hail or sleet. No one knew what caused hurricanes. No one knew what caused lightning. Also, Steve Marino, who's been a member for 6 months, sends a disgusting number of pelagic tunicates, but also a Mothra, so we will take a drink. And by the way, Steve Marino is a tetrapod member. Yeah, Science Side Up says, like the tornadoes maybe miss our Power Rangers game? Exactly like that. That was punishment for the sins of the Midwest. That's how that works. Anyway, so, but through time, right, we figured more of these things out. Now, no one really has to invoke a divine hand to explain most weather phenomena. The fact that we don't have all weather phenomena...
Water spouts, on the other hand, I don't know.
Yeah, well, so the fact that we don't need a divine hand to explain most weather phenomena, but that there is still some open question about weather, I suppose does leave room for God to be the direct cause of water spouts or lightning or something, right? Tornadoes. But
yeah,
historically, it has, one, not been a good reason to simply abandon meteorology as a science, nor has it been great indication of the actual truth of the claim that any particular god is causing weather phenomena by direct miracle. Right? So similarly, if we don't know every last thing about star formation, it is neither good reason to dismiss it as a possibility, nor is it good reason to insert any particular god, or just a god in general, as an explanatory mechanism. Can I rule out that God created stars? No, I have no idea how I would even begin to do that. However, the fact that at various points in history there have been open questions in science does not give positive indication that a god is involved in the particular process. So, Jackson, what do you think?
That sounds reasonable to me.
Okay.
And this is one from 1990, Science magazine, and Lada is a well-known astrophysicist.
The prestigious.
Yeah, Science magazine. I'm going to take a quick drink for hey, the prestigious Science magazine, the famous peer-reviewed work. But that's okay. Jackson, do you remember where the common creationists claim that the average dinosaur is the size of a sheep came from?
Oh, I do indeed.
Would you like to tell us what peer-reviewed publication had that estimate in it?
It was the famous publication by Michael Crichton known as Jurassic Park.
Yes, it was. I remember when that was discovered.
I just... That bowls me over, every time. They literally cited Jurassic Park.
Yep.
Novel.
The novel.
Not the movie, mind you. If it were the movie, it'd be a different story, but it was the novel.
Yes, the novel by the, horror writer, Michael Crichton. Yeah.
Disturbing, however, is the fact that despite numerous efforts, we have yet to directly observe the process of stellar formation. We have not yet been able to unambiguously detect the collapse of a molecular cloud core or the infall of circumstellar material into an embryonic star. Until such an observation is made, it would probably be prudent to regard our current hypotheses and theoretical scenarios with some degree of suspicion.
I mean, they probably do? I think he's taking, the general idea and, assuming it's, 100% unassailable, and the researchers are more well, this is our really well-supported hypothesis, but at the end of the day, it is a hypothesis,
right?
And it is open to future data. He's
Yep.
No, this is just their story that they made up.
Also, do you remember last time when I read out an entire list of protostars that we had directly observed to the point that they were able to be given a designation?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I do. I was
Yeah.
there for that.
It's almost like this is a nonsense argument. Vandelli 1998 for $5 says, the young Earth creationists say stars explode every 30 years, but we know they really explode at random times, like 200 or 200 million years ago. Light isn't that fast, with a Mothra emoji, so we will take a drink for the Mothra emoji. So that claim is basically that the average rate of nova or supernova observation is about 1 every 30 years. Now, I've never checked in on that, but it doesn't actually sound completely crazy. That would be the average rate of such things happening in the observable universe. Whereas what they're not trying to say is that any given star is going to explode every 30 years, or that we can predict which given star is going to explode, and that this happens once every 30 years like clockwork. So, while I don't actually know the accuracy of that estimate, it's not quite as silly as that. So, give them a little bit of credit there. By the way, I'm seeing that over half of you haven't hit which of course means I like less than half of you half as well as you deserve. So get on it.
Lame.
I know.
What a bunch of lame guys and gals.
Now, I realize I'm not proving that stellar evolution theory isn't true. I'm just proving it's not a qualified theory yet.
Okay, so, goodness. Steve Arena for $5 says, Jackson, do you have room in your heart for Pelagic Tunicate, or are you going to be on the wrong side of history with Dapper? And then also sends a Godzilla emoji, so we will drink for that. Jackson, feel free to answer.
My knowledge of tunicates is woefully lacking, so until I meet a bad one, yes, there's room in my heart.
But you already know that some of them are pelagic.
That's true, and I know of I think I can name maybe one or two.
Are you telling me
actual
that
genera.
You're willing to let pyrosomes into your heart?
I mean, as long as they don't take up too much space, sure. I don't see why not.
Pyrosome rings are pretty big, man.
Well, you know,
I
I'm
wouldn't
not
do it.
using my heart really for anything else, so why not?
Okay. You can let pyrosomes fill that god-shaped hole in your heart.
Correct. Yes, because I'm suppressing him so that I
Right.
can sin. You see.
Yes. The only
It,
reason you believe in science is because that you really want to sin.
you see, if only like sin were more fun, right? Because I feel like I just like the sin is just pushing science all the time, not like the sex, drugs, and rock and roll stuff. So you know,
I mean, you could
maybe if I could
spend
have that,
you could just spend more time on sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
I
That's a you
suppose I
problem.
could, but I'm too tired from the science stuff. So.
Okay.
Hey, it might be true. But the science doesn't support it, and the science we do know about says it's impossible.
None of that's true. So one of the things I was going to go over before I ended up being distracted by a super chat, which I do appreciate, by the way, is that hey, we actually do have theories about stellar formation and stellar evolution, and while we don't have every single aspect of it well documented, we have a whole lot and enough to know that we're on the right track. That's why we can see things like protostars, T-Tauri stars, planetary disks, circumstellar disks. We know where there are stellar formation regions, right? Like, all of this has been observed. And yeah, this is basically the same argument as like, oh, there's no missing links. And then I show like 40 missing links. I'm like, but what about the links between the links that you just showed? Like, all right, Dr. Banjo, cool. I don't care anymore. I showed you what you wanted. The fact that you're moving the goalposts doesn't help. So yes, is it possible that not every last single piece of data that we might want for stellar formation has been observed? Very likely. In fact, I'm pretty confident that's the case. That's not really a problem, though.
The science we already know says it can't happen, and we've also never observed it happening. No mechanism exists to condense gaseous clouds into ignition.
Gravity.
Isn't
Take a
it-
drink for just a blatant mistruth. Non-truth.
Isn't it like weren't we talking about this a few weeks ago? Like the kinetic, the turning of like potential into kinetic energy as gravitational collapse occurs is what triggers the star to like ignite, quote quote.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that what's involved in that process? Why is it I get that but he doesn't? Why?
He is paid not to.
Okay.
To get hot enough to ignite a thermonuclear reaction. Despite high number of stars, no one's ever seen a star be born. Why don't textbooks state known problems with stellar formation? Why don't they just say...
So, one of the things there is, like, it's not clear what it would mean for us to watch a star be born. Because as we went over last time, going from a star that is forming and not producing fusion to one that is fusing and enters the main sequence isn't a single, like, snap of the finger event, right? It's a slow process of getting farther and farther away from the typical T-Tauri type star and closer to going on to, say, the main sequence. But, like,
Also,
where do you draw that line? I don't know.
do you think that like that Charles Jackson even thinks that we're like able to draw conclusions about stars being like main sequence stars?
See,
Or do you think he would consider like that's theorizing too?
So he based on what he's already said here, he knows that the main sequence is a thing that is observationally confirmed, right? Like, there's this, if you plot out stellar color versus stellar absolute luminosity, you get this band of stars into which a large number of stars fall. Like, most of them. And that's what's called the main sequence. It's called that because most of the stars fall into it, and it's a big sequence from, like, the bottom left of the chart to the top right, where you're going from, like, red on the left, and blue on the right, and dim at the bottom, and hot at the top. So, he knows that that's a thing, and I think he's acknowledged that it's the main sequence. But he seems to think that stars start out up at the top right of the main sequence, and then move to the bottom left as they age, because earlier he said that blue stars are young, which is always true, but that red stars are old, which is not always true. The difference being that the hotter a star is, the shorter its lifespan. so the younger it has to be just to still exist as a main sequence star, right? So there are many old red stars, but there are also many young red stars, right? Like Orion's belt area is forming red stars right now. So he does not understand the very basics.
Is it?
Well, it is. So yeah, he doesn't understand the very, very basics of the idea that he's trying to criticize. Vandelian 1998 for $5 says, but have you ever seen the missing link between your parents and your child? Wouldn't that just be me?
Yes. However,
then yes.
I don't have a child, therefore I can't be the missing link.
Well, you could imagine a hypothetical child.
That's true, I guess.
It could be Jackson bread. And then
the bread boy.
Your grandchild could be Jackson toast. Because, going through the whole sequence. Or no, maybe your kid could be Jackson flour. Then your grandkid could be Jackson bread. Then your great-grandkid could be Jackson toast. I like it.
That is the main sequence.
Yes, that's the main sequence for bread.
Yes.
All right, here we go.
Instead of dogmatically rolling this out for kids, we're going to have to rewrite the textbooks. We've had to do it
like
before.
We already do.
We're going to have to do it again.
Okay, I'm just going to take a drink for, oh my goodness, science updates when new data comes to light. The horror of science doing the thing it's supposed to do.
I mean, in fairness, a lot of textbook changes are garbo.
Well, okay, yeah.
They were only done because the textbook creators want more money. However, yes, also, textbooks have to be updated when new information comes to light. So, yeah, it's crazy. Whoa.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Where's my mouse? There it is.
In the past 100 years, we've had so many theoretical things, and what bothers me about the industry of science now, the enterprise of science, is that someone gets a cool idea and writes a paper and maybe gets an endowed chairmanship or something, or tenure, and now everyone hails them as right.
Wait, hold on. Did he just say someone just comes up with a hypothesis and they get a chair in the university?
Yeah, which is not how that works.
That's just a lie.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even misunderstanding or misconception. It's literally just a lie.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not how chairs are given out. Yeah. That's not even how you get tenure. Yes.
No, you gotta work for years and publish for years. You have to have noticeable contributions to the field or whatever the heck it is.
Yeah.
For years.
Having a revolutionary new theory that's then later accepted might be a big part of getting the notable work part. Sure. But it doesn't erase all the time requirements or seniority, things like that, nor does it make chairs just become available if someone's already occupying them. Yeah.
Yeah, and also in fairness, you don't have to have a new idea. I mean, in science, it'd be hard not to have new idea. You don't have to come up with some super revolutionary, crazy out there idea.
Yeah, you just gotta do good work.
Yeah, you just keep following whatever series of experiments you've been working on. Just keep kind of going with it. God, I feel like some part of this is just disdain for colleges in general, just because they're secular, and they're pushing evolution.
Always pushing that evolution.
I do that too. I'm gonna be doing it tomorrow also.
Oh my goodness, Jackson. How could you?
But very easily. I get paid to do it. But I mean, I feel like it's almost like with the Sanford video, it's that you made, at some point you wonder, are they just mad? Is it just pure anger, and so they just say just off the wall crazy stuff? They're just angry.
Maybe it is. Also, Too Young to Feel As Old just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships, and they went to Bio Alley, Crypto 457, Charles Starbuck, The Fallen, and Morena. I hopefully said all those right. So first, everybody, get your tetrapod emojis and not your disgusting pelagic tunicate emojis. Get those out of here. Also for $5, a Savage Cobra Kinda official says, so it's a problem that there hasn't been a direct observation of stellar formation, but no direct observation of a global flood isn't one for AIG. Yeah, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Yeah, because we have an eyewitness.
Go home, don't worry about it.
And as we all know, eyewitness accounts are by far the most likely, even though we don't actually have a name attached to Genesis, and it's probably a compilation of of the work of multiple authors, but still, don't worry about that. All right, but let's take our 5 drinks for Too Young to Feel This Old. Here we go. I might actually have to open up another beer. That's okay, though. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Thank you very much.
FOA.
FOA. Yeah. FOA. Well, every once in a while, I think maybe I'll get my Boston accent back.
If you go outside, you can find FOA POA.
What do you guys think? Should I get my Boston accent back?
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like Dan doesn't really have like a northeastern accent when he talks.
We'll start a poll.
I think about it.
Should I?
I definitely don't have a southern accent.
Boston accent back. Yeah? Nah. And turtle. Yeah, nah, turtle. Those are the options. Alright, here we go.
It was only, about a year and a half ago that Alan Guth and Andre Linde almost got a Nobel Prize. I mean, man, we thought we found the gravity waves that they predicted would have been the aftermath of the Big Bang.
I mean,
Wait, no, it wasn't the Big Bang. No. It was like stars colliding, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like
black holes
colliding, neutron stars colliding, things like that. Not the Big Bang.
When the Big Bang collided with the other Big Bang, it generated gravity waves.
Gravity waves would be the aftermath of the Big Bang. And I saw a little video, on YouTube, whatever, about these graduate students coming up to Alan Guth's house, knocking on the door and saying, Dr. Guth, we found it. We found the gravity waves at the edge of the universe that are the remnants left over from the Big Bang. And he's all excited. They're talking Nobel Prize.
Is this a thing that maybe I'm mixing up? Maybe he is talking about Big Bang gravity waves and I'm just dumb?
No, he's talking about back in 2020, was it 15, I think? Late 2015 or early 2016, something like that, when the black holes collided like 2.5 billion years ago, and that caused the gravity waves, which were detected by there's a couple of places in the US. One of them is actually here in Louisiana. It's called LIGO. It's in Livingston, which is down south of Baton Rouge. I drove down. Actually, I drove down there not long after they found that. That must have been. It was either late 2015 or early 2016. And it's this like a laser interferometer, so it's like this super long laser. Well, a couple friends and I, we drove all the way down there after the news broke, and funny enough, someone had leaked the information before they'd published anything on it, or really even like cross-verified with other facilities. This had happened. Somebody leaked the information to Lawrence Krauss, and he went on Facebook and was like publicizing it.
God, that's a bad idea. Don't leak to Lawrence Krauss.
Yeah. Well, it's bad because you're leaking info before you have verified. So if you said that this is what happened, and then it turns out it didn't happen, then not only are you fired, you'll probably be laughed at.
Yeah,
rigorously. I don't know whatever happened to whoever it was. But yeah, we went there. It was really cool. And we got to like tour the facility. Give tours and all that sort of stuff. It was really neat. Highly recommend.
By the way, I know it is gravitational wave and not gravity wave. I'm saying gravity wave because Charles Jackson said it. And the only thing I can find about the Big Bang and gravitational waves is stuff that's like brand new, cutting edge now, not when gravitational waves were first detected, where they were indeed things like colliding neutron stars and black holes.
Mm.
So, yeah, I think that this is just Charles Jackson just getting it badly wrong. And then feeling like he's qualified to just go give a talk about this.
Say it ain't so, Dapper. Say it ain't
Seriously,
so.
like honestly, this feels like if I just agreed to do like an hour-long lecture about like strategy in hockey, and I just went for it. I was like, yeah, cool, let's talk about it. So when the guy has the puck, I mean, and then he shoots it into the, what is it called? Is it a basket? Is it a run? An end zone? Yeah, he shoots it into the end zone, and then the guy with the mask doesn't stop it. That's called a run. It's just like, and everyone's just like, oh yeah, that makes sense, because apparently my audience just also doesn't know anything about hockey, and then we all go away happy that we've learned about hockey. That's basically what's happening right now. Fine Finished Journey for $5 says, AIG has a tremendous trunk of truculent trouser trouts. Awesome. Take a drink for that. DM Wing says, turtles are best tetrapod. Tetrapod. You can say tetrapod. Tetrapod. Yeah. Alright.
Tetra pay.
Here we go.
We're talking Nobel Prize. And then a couple of months later, if you kept reading the news flashes, it was actually dust clouds.
Right.
They had misread some dust clouds out.
I'm sorry, they misread dust clouds as gravitational waves? That's not even a thing.
It was. Hold on,
I'm taking
because
another drink.
The waves. So the way that the physicists detected the waves was with these super sensitive lasers that like jiggle very slightly, and in fact they're so sensitive that you have to drive like 10 miles per hour up to the facility because they will pick you up if you drive over that.
Nice.
And they have to. I know because I accidentally did it. I was I was always the one driving, and they were like, "Jackson, slow down."
Oh,
anyway,
Eric Hamian has found a Scientific American paper that does detail potential gravity waves from the Big Bang.
Oh, nice. But so the other thing was they have to. It also picks up which is very interesting, like earthquakes and volcanic activity on like the other side of the planet because it really is that sensitive. And so so these gravity waves, they pass through whatever, but they caused enough of a movement on this laser interferometer that it picked it up, and the researchers interpreted that data and were able to track back exactly where they'd come from and see that, hey, this verified Einstein's one of his postulates or whatever from like way back, and this was a big deal. And no, it had nothing to do with being dust clouds. Like what?
You can't measure the existence of a dust cloud with like a laser interferometer set up to detect gravitational waves because they don't produce any significant gravitational. It's just a cloud of dust that exists. Like, things that produce detectable gravitational waves are like gigantic, ridiculously massive structures spinning around each other at near the speed of light. And those are some of the strongest gravitational waves that could ever possibly be produced, and we can still barely detect them. A cloud of dust is not going to do that. I don't know. Well, again, he's paid to be.
I understand this, and I'm a biology guy. I don't know anything. I've taken like a couple of physics classes. I don't know anything about astrophysics, and like I get the basic principles of this. And the fact that Mr. Mensa here doesn't, it's just dishonesty. That's all it is. Like I don't know what else to call it.
Look, given some of the people who I know, I don't actually know of anyone who's in Mensa whose work I'm familiar with who I don't think is a complete moron. Being in Mensa is just not a mark of pride.
It's like getting a blue check mark. Like, you think you're cool, but it just signals to everyone else that we should block you.
Yeah, basically. Which actually, I spent a lot of time in the past 2 days blocking every single blue check mark I saw, with very few, very specific exceptions. Usually people who were so dumb, I want to keep hearing that dumb because it's funny to me. Like that Wendell guy who's a creationist on Twitter. Oh, no. I did not block him because his posts are comedy gold.
I cannot stand him. I don't know if anyone saw. I ratioed him twice on the same post, and I haven't done it. I haven't done it since, but I want to again. It make me happy.
All right. Well, here we go. Sorry about that. Apparently, someone didn't need a muffler today.
In deep space, which is okay, but it shows me they're a little trigger happy, a little jump the gun, a little on the gun about this. Now, just a couple of months ago, there was a probe that has been quietly circling the Earth for like 15 years with these gyroscopes and have actually, finally proved, scientifically, by observations and calculations, gravity waves are real. But the gravity waves are being...
No, that was...
Wait.
I'm pretty sure that was LIGO.
No, he thinks the satellite...
What's happening?
He thinks it's a satellite above the Earth, and that's what detected... Wait, then what was the first story about? He went to the whole effort of, like, throwing shade on the gravitational wave thing earlier, just to be like, but wait, they found it later?
Yeah,
What?
By the way, so, should I get my Boston accent back? Turtle got 58. Nah, 24. Sorry, 20. Nah, 24. Yeah, 16.
You know what? I vote no.
Why? No wasn't one of the options. Nah is one of the options.
Fine, I vote nah.
Why?
I didn't enjoy that.
No, look, like, my Boston accent has been gone for so long that I have to really, really think about it to even attempt it. It's no longer just my natural accent, right? I got rid of that stuff in high school, and I don't know if you guys know, but that was a while ago. All right.
Why is he so dumb?
It doesn't... Here's the thing, look. No one he cares about is going to fact check him. No one. He doesn't care about you or I. He cares about the kind of people who come and sit in this lecture hall in ASU randomly because they want to be told that what they already believe is true, even when it's not. That's who he cares about. Those are the people who pay his checks. Those are the people who give money to his sci-fi time travel show that still hasn't come out. Which, by the way, is in fact still, as far as I know, using the robot that also was used by the Power Rangers people to make evil robot Tommy. Which, I mean, it's just a cheap asset that you can get on, like, Turbo Squid or something. I found it. I could have bought it for, like, $20 or something. It's not that big of a deal. It's just a little amusing that this is the robot that was in Power Rangers and is also in his sci-fi show. But yeah, it's not actually real shade, because look, getting a whole bunch of cool sci-fi assets made custom is a big time-intensive thing. That's why asset stores exist, so you don't have to. Anyway.
Generated by our planet. Those are the ones we found, not ones that are left over from the Big Bang. So for the first time, and Einstein...
It wasn't in the first place.
Like he predicted, the bending of starlight and many other things, time dilation, all that. Einstein sort of inferred that gravity waves would be real. And now we actually, just a couple months ago...
No. Einstein didn't infer that gravity waves would be real. If anything, he implied it, but I'm pretty sure he just stated it outright. Okay, pro tip, everybody. Imply is what the speaker does to indicate that something is true, that they're not just stating outright explicitly. Infer is what the listener or reader does to get the implication into their brain. So, if I say, like, hey, I used to have a lot of respect for John Sanford, and then leave it at that, I've implied that I don't currently have a lot of respect for John Sanford. And you could infer that I don't. That's how those words work. Sometimes.
Found out they really are. But you didn't hear much about that because it didn't help prove the Big Bang. But it is out there.
You hear lots about gravitational waves. Basically, every time LIGO makes a major detection, I hear about it. I'm taking a drink for this whole, like, gravitational waves aren't reported on because they don't prove the Big Bang. That's just not true. I guess Dr. Tapioca Weasels could say that Einstein inferred the existence of gravitational waves from his model, since it falls out of the math of general relativity. I guess. Also, apparently, according to Steve Reno, my mom makes detectable gravitational waves. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Cool.
Oh, no.
I'll ask her if she can go walk by LIGO and see if they detect anything. She'd probably hate me if I did that.
I mean, if you just have to drive over 10 miles per hour, so, yeah.
I'll see if she can run over 10 miles an hour and see if that causes detection. She could probably do it for a little while. 10 miles an hour isn't that fast.
New discovery. Now, whether gravity waves are actually contain graviton particles or not, those are hypothetical.
Yes, we'll take a drink for him getting something right. It finally happened. 45 minutes in. Good job. Gravitons are indeed hypothetical.
And are forces actually made of particles? I mean...
Well, photons aren't hypothetical. Gluons aren't hypothetical. I mean, the Higgs boson isn't hypothetical. So, generally, no, force carriers as a whole category of subatomic particles are not hypothetical.
Light, the wave nature versus the particle nature of light. What is a photon actually? Still, people argue about that and do it.
Oh, we'll take a drink. A photon is a localized excitation of the electromagnetic field. That's what that is. Forces in particle physics are associated with fields, and a field is just basically, it is a set of values that a certain space can take, that different points in a certain space can take on, right? So, for instance, in your house, you could look at the temperature as a heat field, right? There's different amounts of heat contained in the air in different points in your house. And you could go with a thermometer and check any given point and get different numbers, write that down, and that would be a measurement of the heat field, or maybe the temperature field. But if we're always measuring air, which is going to have a constant specific heat capacity, it's going to end up being the same thing because you can convert directly. Let's call it heat for now. It'll be a measurement of the heat field. Okay. You could also do an airflow field, where you take some kind of thing that measures airflow, and you could come up with not just a number for each point in your house, but also a direction of the airflow. Now, those are two different kinds of fields. There's the scalar field, which does not have a directionality, which is like the heat field, right? But then the air current field is a vector field, because not only does it have a value, it also has a directionality. So forces are thought of in particle physics as being fields, and the force carriers are excitations of that field. So, for instance, most of space has a ground state for the electromagnetic field, where there's no particular excitation, so it basically all just kind of hovers around the minimum value for that field, which I don't know. Maybe Dr. Tapioca Weasel does. Real quick, Dia Wing asks, can a ceratosaur run faster than 10 miles an hour? Yes. In fact, many ceratosaurs were built for high speed. In fact, just a few days ago, I was looking directly at a very nice skeletal mount of Carnotaurus sastre in Museum of Natural History, and looking at just how big the muscle attachment points are on both the proximal and the distal ends of the main locomotor muscles for Carnotaurus. And my goodness, just looking at like a 2D like reconstruction on a computer screen does not do just as much justice as looking at it in person does. Because, and yes, under a broad definition, Carnotaurus is in fact part of Ceratosauroidea, so I'm going to count it. So take that. That would also just be true generally of, the whole family. Sorry, Jackson, what were you going to say?
I just said boom.
Yeah. So anyway, so a photon is a localized excitation in this field. So at this point in the field, there is an increased amount of energy, and that's the photon. Now, how this excitation moves around is determined by a set of equations that are derived and essentially identical to wave, the equations used to describe how waves travel, right? But then other interactions that it has are more accurately described by equations that are more like what you would do to, talk about like the interaction of billiard balls. And then yet other interactions aren't well described by either of them, but are somewhat similar to some other equations. And those are things like spin and what. Okay. So that's what that is. Now, at some point you can say, well, what's a field other than just a mathematical abstraction? And like, okay, yeah, it's true. No matter how much we know about physics, at some point you can say, well, what is that? And I'm going to have to say, well, I don't know. That just seems like it's part of the baseline of reality. It's just a brute fact that this thing exists. Maybe we can't go farther down. maybe we can. So, yeah. Okay, so now that we know basically what a particle is and what fields are, let's continue.
Equations and stuff, but is the force of gravity actually due to particles of
Dunno.
gravitons? And gravitons are hypothetical particles, totally. They're like dark matter.
Goodness. No, they're not like dark matter. I'm going to take a drink and explain why. My goodness.
Did you expect any less?
No, I maybe I don't even know anymore. Okay, so dark matter is an observed phenomenon, right? We know that there's too much gravity. Now, we've also observed places where so there's basically two. Okay, we'll start back up. I'll back up a little bit. There's a paradox in astrophysics, which is to say that the observed effects of gravity at galactic scales is generally too strong to be accounted for by the normal baryonic matter. Baryonic matter is the kind of matter that you're made up of. It's the kind of matter that you eat and drink. It's the kind of matter Earth is made up of, right?
Okay.
So, sorry. There's two big possibilities. One is that the inverse square law for gravity simply does not hold at high enough distances. That's a possibility. Another possibility is that there is some kind of massive substance that does not interact, as far as we can tell, with any of the forces other than gravity. That is what would be called dark matter. Now, we've actually been able to find some galaxies that don't seem to have dark matter. This is a result of complicated interactions like galaxy collisions and galaxies passing through other galaxies and stuff like that, right? And so,
Okay.
because we can observe areas where the effects of gravity do seem to line up with the amount of visible matter, that is a strong indication that we do in fact know that the inverse square law for gravity does operate, and instead dark matter is actually some kind of stuff, right? So what that means is that dark matter is not just hypothetical. We're very confident it exists for very good observational reasons, right? It can be indirectly observed in many places, and also we know where it isn't, because it can be observed that it does not have effects there. So, unlike the graviton, which is entirely hypothetical, and may or may not exist, and we don't have any evidence really either way, dark matter is very well evidenced. So,
Okay.
there you go. Here we go.
They even have said, talked about anti-gravitons, when we don't even know that gravitons in normal matter exist.
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna take another drink. As a general rule, if a particle exists in the particle zoo, its antiparticle also exists. Now, there may be some weird...
In the antiparticle aquarium.
Now, I don't actually know that there are gravitons or anti-gravitons, but it would make sense if they do. Now, there is also weird stuff like perhaps neutrinos are actually Dirac fermions, in which case they would be their own antiparticle in weird, complicated ways that I don't fully understand. But whatever.
So that's okay. Scientists need imagination to roll out scenarios that we can work with. Einstein called them thought experiments. And then there's, of course, all these different kinds of imaginations. It's important. But teaching it dogmatically is not science.
No one is teaching the existence of gravitons dogmatically, Jackson. Dr. Jackson. It's just not happening. Arachabian says, isn't a photon the same as an antiphoton, or am I misremembering that? I believe that is true, because they have no mass, so they are their own antiparticle, because they don't really experience time, and you can think of antiparticles as reverse time versions of regular particles. So, I don't know, I'm not an expert. I'll take a drink, because no one is teaching gravitons as dogma. Alright, here we go.
It's some kind of a fanatical cult sort of religion, and it's not science at all.
Yeah, there's a cult of like gravitons and star formation exist. They're sex cults, actually.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Well, I guess sex does involve a whole lot of particles.
You know, it certainly does.
Yeah, I mean, protons, neutrons, gluons, photons, electrons, all over the place during sex.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yes, and they're just going with the motion of the universe.
That actually doesn't sound all that sexy, because that's just kind of like expanding into the infinite nothingness.
Hey, that's also you know what? Never mind. Anyway, moving on.
Okay.
Strong, obvious opinions about that. Okay, here's a picture of a galaxy, NGC 4725. One night there's nothing there, and the next night there's a supernova star exploding. So we can see, I realize supernova stars would be a lot brighter.
A weird way to put it, supernova star, since the supernova is an event that happens to a star. It's like calling it an explosion bomb. Like, what? I guess. It's just a weird way to put it.
Then little baby stars starting out. But we are watching the sky.
Where do baby stars come from?
Well, when a cloud of mostly hydrogen really loves itself.
All the time for new events, like what astronomers do. That's how they discover new meteors coming close to us and things like that. Well, let's just look at a little bit of statistics. If we have 100 billion galaxies, and even the Hubble Deep Field didn't get that.
Oh, take a drink for Mothra. I hear a Mothra. Thanks, Mothra. We're going to get a little bit more of this in. I'm going to make a quick response, and we're going to take a quick break. Okay, where's my mouse? There it is.
That, didn't get to the end of the universe, so we don't know. There's probably more than that. That would be about 200 billion stars per galaxy. If we these I know are not exact figures, they're ballpark. If the universe is 20 billion years old, that's a little higher than many.
Yeah, it's significantly higher. We're talking like 30% higher. But okay.
I'll say, but this would work out that there should be 100 trillion stars being born per year. If you work it out, 2 billion stars per day, 31,700 stars all over the whole universe per second. Surely one of those at some time get close enough for us to see it light up.
I hate this so much. Okay. First, stellar formation is not a constant through the history of the universe. It started out super low at basically 0 per year for millions of years. Then it got really high for a little while as the first initial clouds of hydrogen collapsed into what were probably absurdly massive stars that are so big they can't really form anymore today. Then it slowed down for a bit, and it's been accelerating for the last few billion years, and we're probably actually right now at the last peak of stellar formation, and that from now on, and by from now I mean like, a billion years or so, right? Like this period of like a billion years or so, like plus or minus 500 on either side of us. 500 million, that is. After that, stellar formation will slow down until it eventually stops forever. You cannot simply take the number of observed supernovas or novas and then figure out that must also equal like the number of stars per year once you take into account how many stars still exist. Further, the amount of time it takes for a star to go from the main sequence to essentially a stellar remnant, or the graveyard, as you will, varies significantly based on the size of the star, or its mass, if you will. Or technically mass, but mass correlates very strongly with size, so whatever. So all of this is just nonsense math that he did to come up with some number that doesn't mean anything.
Don't you know there are stars per year, Dapper? The stars per year.
I mean, technically it's true. There are a number of stars that begin fusion per year. It's probably a pretty high number in the entire universe. But also...
Don't you know that there are the stars ever?
Well, yeah. Oh yeah, and Savage Cobra kind of... Oh my goodness, it's another Mothra. Take another drink for Mothra. Thanks, Mothra.
Hey look, Dapper, we're live.
We are.
I just got the message that we're live.
Oh, good. Thanks, YouTube. Only an hour late. Goodness. Okay, so also, there's a few other things, right? So, it is not possible to see all of the stars that are forming at any given point, right? Because many of them are going to start off relatively dim and then pick up brightness over time, right? So we can tell where there are stellar nurseries in other galaxies, and we can estimate how many stars are being born there. But we're probably not going to likely directly observe them because, unlike supernovas, they're not blindingly bright. They're actually pretty dim at first. So, this is just dumb for so many reasons. And, yeah, I don't know if he does know that that's an LGBT equality sign that he's using with the yellow equal sign on a blue field. Yeah.
Oh, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
You know what? Good for him. He's an ally.
Yes, you know
I appreciate that.
Dr. Charles Jackson, I'm glad that you're an ally of the LGBT community.
Dr. Jackson is the ultimate ally. He is the only ally in fact.
Yeah, you know what? This is basically trans rights from Dr. Jackson.
Good for him.
I'll take a drink for Bad Jackson getting it right on trans rights and marriage equality and all those great things. You know what? Good for you, Dr. Charles Jackson. Now, of course, if you disagree with me that you're such a standout guy, in fact, you want to come out as some kind of crazy homophobe or transphobe or something, I mean, you can let me know. But for now, I'm just going to assume that you're a decent fellow. All right, but with that, we're going to take a quick break, guys. We will be back in just a few minutes. In the meantime, I hope that you enjoy the musical stylings of one Bent Hovind, who, of course, is my regular guest for Kent with Bent on different Tuesdays. Okay, we are back. Welcome back, Jackson. Good Jackson.
Glad to be back. Jackson,
All right.
Jackson, and Jackson.
Yes, there's two Jacksons. There's good and bad Jackson. You're the good Jackson.
Attorneys at law.
All right, before we get into this, I want to make a quick little, I don't know, plea, I guess, and then a quick statement, and then we'll get back into it. So, as I'm sure everyone here probably knows, unless you're very new, this channel is something that I spend a lot of time working on, and that is only possible because I get support from my viewers who do things like join the channel membership program, do super chats, buy merch, pledge on Patreon, and other such things like that, right? The direct revenue from ads is essentially nothing on this channel. That's not entirely true, but it's certainly not enough that it would make it possible for me to spend as much time on this channel as I do. So if you are someone who is interested in making sure that this channel stays on the air, keeps doing better, keeps growing, and keep spending as much time as I can on it, then I would highly encourage you to check out the memberships or the Patreon. You can get, on the Patreon, you can get, I believe it's a 12% discount for pledging annually. There are multiple tiers. Anything at the $5 or above tier, you're in the credits. There's something like 4 or 5 months worth of like extra material, like just hours and hours of video, basically just sitting there waiting for you if you join either the membership or the Patreon. However, if that's not for you, there's also an Amazon wishlist. Mostly fun stuff, but there is some stuff for the channel, like a new monitor would be helpful, things like that. And also, there's a merch store linked in the description. Also, my regular co-host, Benthoven, has a wish list listed in the description. So yeah, those are all great ways. And if none of those are right for you, if you can't, or you just can't afford it, or you just don't want to, hit like, share this video with people you think would like it, leave comments. All that stuff really helps in the algorithm. But also, Savage Cobra Kinda Official just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships, and they went to Lord Crocosquirrel, Eric Davis, Gregory Nitsky, Christopher Kennedy Atheist, and Dr. Legend. I'm going to go with Legendre. Go French on this one. So everybody, get your tetrapod emojis in. I'm seeing a majority of tetrapod emojis and a minority of pelagic tunicates, which is an improvement. But here, let's take 5 drinks before we get into this. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oh, and also 5. There we go, it took 5. Okay, Scriptic Mystic for $5 says, I learned of a new family of dinosaur today that may be my new favorite. Scansoriopterigidae. I love the Scansoriopterigids. Like Ambopteryx, Yeechi.
It's kind of funny how much trouble that group is giving paleontologists because they keep jumping around among the
Paravians.
The Paravians, such that I've even seen some analyses where they are sister Avialae because they're just so close. You know?
Yeah,
and it's
Scansoriopterigidae is weird.
They're weird. And probably the reason why they're so difficult to place. Scansoriopterigids, Dromaeosaurs, Oviraptorosaurs, all those, or Troodontids, all those guys, right, kind of at the base of or really close to Avialae, around the Paraves.
Yeah.
They all probably radiated in conjunction with the onset of flowering plants at the end of the late Jurassic.
Mm-hmm.
So there was the Cretaceous terrestrial revolution where you have flowering plants evolving, which then triggers lots of insect evolution as a co-speciation. So you have wasps, with figs and things like that, which not at that time, of course, but similar processes happening today. And that in turn triggered various insectivores to also diversify, and so on and so on. So.
By the way, Arachamian for $20 sends a Godzilla emoji, so we will take a drink for that. Thank you very much for your very generous super chat, Arachamian. Just another quick statement, because there was the plea, now there's the statement. So yes, I have in fact seen Sal Cordova's, I hesitate to call it a response, my John Sanford series. Sal Cordova put out a video entitled Not Cool, with a thumbnail that was just a graphic also saying not cool, in which he points out just how much of a big brain John Sanford is, which I do not dispute. I am perfectly willing to say that John Sanford is like Megamind times 4. Great with it. The problem is that doesn't make him not a liar. In fact, the smarter you are, the more likely it is that you're lying when you say things that are obviously not true. Because the less room I have for assuming that you're just innocently ignorant. Now, I will not be responding to Sal directly until at least a week after the final video in the series is done. My plan is to then make a fairly short video that may or may not be monetized and will not be premiering on a normal Thursday time slot, but instead will simply be published when it's done, hopefully on a Friday. And that will be my response on that. Because, quite frankly, I'm not going to give John Sanford a pass because Sal likes him. That's not how this works. If John Sanford wanted to have a pass, he could have just been, well, less wrong about easily verifiable things. And I'm not saying, like, oh, you know, this deep theoretical work he's doing on, like, biochemistry. I'm saying, like, very obvious things, like saying, hey, did you know that Darwin didn't do any math in Origin of Species? Except for all the times that he did.
Yeah, like, he wrote about his experiments with seeds in the chapter, what is it, chapter 11? No, chapter 12. Chapter 12, where he does a whole bunch of experiments with seeds where he, like, basically sits them in salt water for, like, a couple weeks and then sees if they germinate. And the reason, of course, for that was, can plants survive, like, transoceanic voyages? The answer is, yeah, a lot of them can, actually.
Yep.
Yeah, and he records lots of numbers. Like, oh, what? That's just a lie.
Yep. So, now, of course, yes, as has been pointed out by Vishanti, Sal Cordova admits to having not watched either of my videos, despite making a not cool video, in which he asks me to retract my statement that John Sanford is lying.
Watch.
Yes.
Okay.
So I intend to say to Sal in my response, I am perfectly happy to retract any statement that I have made about John Sanford lying when I am convinced that it is more likely that he did not lie and instead is simply an idiot. If anyone can convince me that rather than being simply a liar, he's in fact much dumber than Sal makes him out to be, I will retract. Good luck, everybody. Because as far as I can tell, the guy who's in the Smithsonian twice for his inventions is probably not an idiot.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Because that's the thing. This guy's in the Smithsonian. He's not an idiot. He knows better. Okay. So, now we can finally get back to Dr. Charles Jackson, the bad Jackson.
And we can see this. And don't get me wrong. It's not that this is escaping us. Scientists are looking for this. Astronomers are looking. Hey, you're going to be famous if you're the first one to see this happen.
I like how he puts up there like 31,700 stars per second, as if it's a big number, given the vastness of the universe.
It's just so many. It's a big number. There's like at least 3 zeros.
Oh,
Effort.
yeah.
Think about how many zeros there are. That's too many.
Yeah, but think about how
That's
vast the
far too
observable
many.
universe is.
Consider that I can barely comprehend like a can of beans. So having 3 zeros is just way too many for me.
I don't even have any cans of beans. I don't even know if I have any dried beans. I haven't gone really like grocery shopping except for beer since I got back.
Dapper destroyed on camera with facts and logic.
Yeah,
Boom.
about beans.
About beans. Doesn't know about beans.
I mean, have I even heard of legumes? Probably not.
Fabaceae? Never seen them.
Mm-mm.
I hardly know her.
Sounds made up.
Probably is. Buy botanists to sell more botany.
Exactly.
They're looking. Mount Palomar's looking. You know, these people are looking and trying to detect these with radio telescopes and with optical telescopes. That guy Lada, yes, that's from that same article. Despite
Arachamian says, do you have a 70-pound bag of beans on your wish list, Dapper Dinosaur? No, I don't.
Not yet.
Look, you want to get me something from my wish list, here's my recommendation. Get me the stuff for the Dishonored RPG, because I happen to know Benthoven wants to play that one. So, get me that so that way he can play it.
numerous various efforts, we've yet to directly observe the process. The origin of stars represents one of the fundamental unsolved problems of contemporary astrophysics. And if you're sold on stellar evolution...
Remember, this is a quote from 1990, which is, what is that, 33 years ago?
Yeah.
Illuminati
Yeah,
confirmed. We'll take a drink for the Illuminati. Okay, now here's Vishanti trying to break my brain by giving a $2 super chat that says, per se, spelled P-E-R-S-A-Y with no space. And I'm trying to hold it together. In case you guys don't know, in Armando Calvo, aka Christ Righteous's book, A Conscious Universe, that's how he spells per se. Which is... I saw that and I just broke. And, yeah, I was talking to Vishanti when that happened, and I just couldn't. I was done. It was... Because, look, I mean, everything about his book is complete nonsense. It's barely even coherent thoughts most of the time, and much of the time it's not even that. But that, for some reason, per se, P-E-R-S-A-Y, I just couldn't get over it for such a long time. I had to pause the video. I was just so bad.
It's rough.
Yeah. Look, here's the thing, right? You're publishing a book, my guy. Like a book, like you're putting this out in public as like, this is the height of my intellectual prowess is in this book. And then you're just like, per se, one word, P-E-R-S-A-Y. It was just like, ugh.
But consider perhaps instead. Would you perhaps to think?
It's pretty bad too. But then Savage Cobra Kind Official says, was it in the table of context? Which is, that's something Armando's previous book, God Exists, had. And no, it's not God Exists. It's God Exists.
God do be existent sometimes.
Yes.
That's like standing for truth bad.
Yeah, it really is. The Fearmonger Official says, were you a good boy and didn't buy the book yourself, right? Yeah, no, I have not purchased that book. I do not plan on spending money for any of Armando Calvo's books.
God do exist.
And Vishanti points out, yeah, he also misspelled Stalin.
Nar.
Goop23, who's been a member for 9 months and is at the tetrapod level, says, KJV get title, yes. Oh, man, at least Armando's books have all the chapters that they say they have. Unlike Kenthoven's dissertation. Which is missing the vast majority. It's missing 12 of the 16 chapters. Which is just amazing. Okay, here we go.
Then this is considered an unsolved problem. Unless you have another star formation theory that doesn't involve gravitational collapse.
We don't need one that doesn't involve gravitational collapse. But again, open questions are not a great place to simply say, well, therefore, miracle.
Then maybe you wouldn't say it's an unsolved problem. It's an unsolved problem for gravitational collapse star theory. That's the only thing it's unsolved for. Maybe it'll never be solved. Maybe it never did happen. And that's probably the way the books should present it. This is the edge of our knowledge. We don't know when.
That is how they present it. What are you talking about, man? I'm taking a drink. The book shouldn't describe things that are open questions as things that aren't open questions. Yet, as a rule, they don't. Like, has he not read astronomy textbooks? Because I've read at least one college-level astronomy textbook, and it was full of things like, hey, this is not very well understood.
I'm gonna guess no.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Which is why I'm opening up beer numero tres. I'm gonna try and get a pretty good pour on this. Although, like, I feel like this beer just tends to be a pretty heady beer. Because, like, most of the beers that I pour carefully enough that there's just barely a monolayer of bubbles. But for some reason, with this summer ale, it's always, like, at least, like about a centimeter or so of bubbles at the top. Which, This is more like 1.5 centimeters. Which, it's not like a problem, but it just disappoints me because I always feel like I screwed up. Like, oh, I didn't do a good pour. This pour sucks. I think it's just the beer. Or maybe I'm just super out of practice because I didn't have any. No, I had some beer, but someone else poured it over my vacation. I had a Blue Moon.
Nice.
Yeah.
The movie Jurassic Park came out. I was actually teaching science enrichment classes for little second graders, and these kids all came in with little Jurassic Park t-shirts on and everything. I went to see the movie, and I was stunned their parents would let them go see that. Man, I couldn't get the images out of my mind. It didn't scare me, but that was the best, at the time, it was the best special effects.
You didn't? He was like, that was like I couldn't get the images out of my mind. Oh, but it didn't scare me. I wasn't scared.
Right.
Were you scared? Not
No.
me. I would never be scared.
He
by
was
Jurassic
just
Park.
he was just startled, buddy. He was only startled. He was never scared.
He was startled into having the images like plastered onto his brain.
Seriously. The images of the dinosaurs killing people were seared into my brain. I can never forget them. They were so horrific. But I totally wasn't scared, guys.
Not me. I would. My parents let me see rated R movies when I was an 18.
But later, when I was teaching biology at the community college, students would
You sure you did?
Press, you know what? Press F in the chat for anyone who had Dr. Charles Jackson as a biology teacher in community college. I'm taking a drink for that. It's like
I think I'm
pouring
gonna
one
press
out for
X
my
to doubt.
homies. Well, yeah, it's probably something that... We'll take a drink for something that probably didn't happen. But also, F's in the chat for anyone who had that very unfortunate experience.
Well, I think about how some people have taken or take James tour right now for biochem, and Dave talked about in one of his recent or one of the last videos he did on him where like I think it was the rate my professors are all like, this class is fine if you're okay with him like preaching at you in biochem.
Oh, gross.
Yeah.
Actually, I just talked to Dave Farina about James' tour a few days ago, and yeah, he's pretty excited for the live debate. He's got some serious ideas about that. So
It'll be better than some channels that happen to promote individuals who are associated with German parties from the 1930s and 40s.
you can just say it's better than modern day debate hosting actual National Socialists.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's true.
yeah.
Any channel that doesn't do that is inherently better than that.
Yes. So okay, here's something. This came up when I was talking to Professor Dave, which is that so James Tour plans to have someone there to live stream from the event
Okay.
to James Tour's channel. But Dave does not have anyone currently to do that for him. So if you are in Texas, near where the debate's going to be, you'd have to ask him about that, right? But if you think that you can get there and yourself live stream so that there is a version of events that does not come through the filter of whatever it is that James Tour does, that would be much appreciated, because I do happen to know, because I talked about it, that Professor Dave would like for there to be an option for it to be live streamed maybe to his channel or to some other channel that's like friendly to him.
What city is it again?
I don't remember. It's in Rice University. I don't know where that is. But if you live near Rice University... Yeah. Well, feel free to look that up while I'm saying this. If you live near Rice University, try to get in contact with Dave Farina, Professor Dave Explains.
That's in Houston.
Okay, so there you go. It's in Houston. And see if he would be okay with you coming out to that event to live stream it, whether it be to your channel or to his, and you could coordinate with that. So there you go.
It's too far for me to drive, sadly, but oh well.
What if you could fly?
If I could fly, then I would be a theropod.
What if you could get inside a large metal can that has wings and jet engines, and that could fly for you while you're inside of it?
I don't know. I always wuss out at the last minute when I think about like making plans. I always wuss out.
Okay, fair enough. All right, here we go.
It's not fair.
We'll get some more Charles Jackson in.
ask me, could Jurassic Park be real? Could we do that? And that's what's great about Michael Crichton is, and any good sci-fi author, they will take what we can do and go up right to the edge of that and jump a little further to stimulate our...
You know what? I will agree. That is a mark of a pretty good sci-fi story in many ways, is if you can incorporate pretty much all of the modern knowledge that you have and then just try to extrapolate a little bit farther to beyond what can be done. So I'll take a drink. I do actually like that aspect of it. Good job there, Bad Jackson.
The reason, if anyone's wondering, that we can't do that, or at least it's extremely unlikely we could do that, is DNA does not preserve for that long. Sorry, folks.
Yeah, so, now, in the sense that you might get little tiny fragments of DNA after that long, that's...
Yeah.
It's possible. It's not very likely, but it's possible. But the problem then is...
genetically altered.
Right. Is there a way to then sequence it? Because in order to sequence a genome, right, you have to be able to reconstruct the original configuration of where things were on what chromosome and what parts connect to other parts. But if all you have is a bunch of tiny little fragments of like 5 or 6 base pairs, you can't do that because it's too chaotic, too many changes have occurred, and the pieces are too fragmentary. There would just be too many equally probable reconstructions that you could make. There's just no way to do it. The reason we can do it with like Neanderthals and mammoths and whatnot is because while their genomes are degraded in terms of their actual cells, they're still not split into so many tiny, tiny parts that we can't figure out a consensus sequence. Anyway, here we go.
Can we do warp drive? Can we
no, probably not.
Clone dinosaurs,
Well, can we clone dinosaurs? Yes. Can we clone Mesozoic dinosaurs? No. You want to go clone a pigeon? Have fun. I'm very confident that you could clone a pigeon.
Can we do time travel? And
Well, you can travel forward in time. That's easy. I'm time traveling right now at the speed of regular time. Into the future.
all those kinds of things, and that's what good sci-fi is. But we could discover how to clone dinosaurs next year.
No, we're not going to discover how to clone Mesozoic dinosaurs ever. I can say that with very high confidence.
Years, or maybe it's not possible at all in the known universe. It just might not be possible. But
Savage Cobra, kind of official for $2, says you need to donate a DNA sample for science. Look, I'll tell you what. You find a scientist who wants my Ceratosaurus DNA, and also find what would be a suitable donor egg for my DNA, and I'll get myself a little baby twin brother. Because that's what your clone would be. It would be a twin sibling.
it makes good imagination and thinking, and it spurs on a lot of other kinds of thoughts. Well, this is Eric Lerner, president of Lawrenceville Plasma Physics. He wrote this book, The Big Bang Never Happened. I think that Lerner is...
I wonder if that was a peer-reviewed book. Let me go ahead and guess no.
is a cosmic string theorist, and so he's not in favor of the Big Bang. And he wrote an open letter to Science, New Scientist magazine in 2004 called Bucking the Big Bang. At the time, he had 33 other scientists from 10 countries sign it. A couple years later, I read the list of scientists.
I'm willing to make a prediction,
Ooh.
if you will. I am willing to predict that guy who thinks the Big Bang didn't happen still thinks that the universe is like 14 billion years old. It just originated via some other model, or through some other model.
Interesting.
That's my prediction.
I don't know enough about this guy to be confident about that, but it's an
What was his
interesting
name
prediction.
again? Lerner?
Something Lerner. I think we'll hear it again if we hit play.
Scientists that had signed this protest against Big Bang being dogmatic, and my...
The Big Bang isn't dogmatic. I'm going to take a drink. We're going to talk about the difference between dogma and consensus in science.
I think I have...
Have his book?
Independent... No, I think I've heard of this guy.
Oh, well, I'm taking a drink real quick. Okay, so let's talk real quick about dogma versus consensus in science, right? So, dogma is a technical term in theology primarily from Christianity. that refers to beliefs that are seen by a particular group as core to being part of that group, right? So, for instance, in most Christians believe that the fact that Jesus of Nazareth was the Messiah that you can hear talked about in places in various scriptures is a dogma. Many of them have his divinity as a dogma. Many of them have the Trinity as a dogma. Many of them have something about the salvific effect of his crucifixion and resurrection as a dogma, right? A fairly recent dogma of the Catholic Church is the Immaculate Conception of the Virgin Mary, such that she was, according to the Catholic Church, born without the stain of original sin, so as to be an appropriate vessel for the incarnate second person of the Holy Trinity. Those are dogmas. Now, these are generally not empirically derived. They are the result of theological debates between members of a particular religion. Now, some religions understand their dogmas as going back to their founding members and their founding events. Historians generally tend not to agree that those things go back that far, but I'm not here to tell you whether they do or not. But these are things that are not generally evidence as a result of empiricism. At best, they might be hinted at via historical sources, but that's still not science. Now, the consensus in science is arrived when a certain idea has failed to be refuted despite multiple people trying over a very long time. And it is the most well-evidenced position in a particular field of science that exists on that question. And it is accepted because of the evidence, and if it is later rejected, it will be rejected because of new evidence. There is no one who has... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. Oh, sorry. I thought you were finished. My bad. Keep going.
There is no one who has declared that some particular belief in science is an unchangeable core aspect of being a science guy. Not the Big Bang, not evolution, not universal common ancestry, it's not universal gravitation. None of these are dogmas. They are consensus ideas that have been derived because of overwhelming evidence. And they are subject to change, provided disconfirming evidence. So far, none has been forthcoming. When it is, the consensus will start to change. It will not be immediate, because it will have to be assessed, and this disconfirming evidence will have to be reproduced consistently over a long time, such that it actually becomes very clear that it's not just a fluke. But yeah, that's how science works. These aren't dogmas. These are consensus opinions. Go ahead, sorry.
Okay, so on the learner front, boy was I right. Also, first, I just want to point out, he participated apparently in the 1965 Selma March, which is kind of cool.
Oh.
But his ideas about physics have been roundly refuted. He's one of the plasma universe guys.
Oh, goodness.
Farina has done a bunch of videos debunking all their nonsense.
Yeah, that's like the electric universe nonsense.
Yes. So not only does he think that the Earth is at least 14 billion years old, he actually argues it's eternal in age. So boy, was I right.
Oof. Eternal. We'll take a drink for eternal.
Can't get much older than eternal.
My goodness, that's... Wow. Okay, here we go.
Old astronomy professor from George Mason University, Minos Kafatos, was on that list. Now, I knew that Dr. Kafatos believed in the Big Bang Theory.
That's an extremely Greek name. I approve.
Like Dino Stomatopoulos.
Yes.
He was
You know who he is?
No.
He did a bunch of skits on SNL, and he also wrote Moral Oral, which was this like claymation show that made fun of Divine Command Theory, which if anyone hasn't watched it, highly recommend. It is bonkers, but it's a really good bonkers. So rewatch it.
That it was being taught dogmatically. Our ideas about the history of the universe are dominated by Big Bang Theory, but its dominant rests more on funding decisions than on the scientific method.
Remember, this is the guy who thought that Earth was eternal and that the electric universe is a real thing. This guy is just as big a crank as Bad Jackson.
According to Eric Lerner and dozens of other scientists.
Dozens? This is giving me big Tobias Funke energy when he's talking about never nudes, and he shouts, "There are dozens of us! Dozens!"
There are at least tens of people who accept this idea.
Right? Dozens is not an impressive number when it comes to scientific consensus, my guy. You can find a dozen or two people who believe just about anything, who have any degree you can care to name. It doesn't help.
At least tens of scientists in the world
Yes.
are young Earth creationists.
There are scores of creationists out there. Scores of them, I tell you! Oh, okay. Cool. Savage Cobra Kind Official says, "Are we witnessing crank magnetism in action?" Yes. This I would say counts as an example of crank magnetism. Oh, okay, here we go.
Okay, this is one thing from the article that he said. So, discordant data on redshifts, lithium and helium abundances, and galaxy distribution, among other topics, are ignored or ridiculed.
No, those things aren't ignored or ridiculed, and I don't care who's saying it, Lerner or Charles Jackson. They can drink real. So, those are the phenomena which are used to try to adjust the theory of the Big Bang to better accord with current data, which can then allow it to make better predictions about future data. Also, Savage Cobra, Kind Official, and Jillian Wren have both apparently gotten bingo on today's bingo game. Thank you very much for playing. Congratulations to both of you. You each win 2 internets. So there you go.
Isn't the thing with like there's something that there's like slightly more lithium in the abundance of lithium is like slightly higher than like earlier models thought. So the models just had to be like adjusted to account for more lithium. That doesn't mean like everything about the Big Bang is false. It just means there needs to be more study on this one aspect of it, or I'm sure there are multiple aspects that need to be more studied.
Sure.
But
I don't know about the lithium, but yeah, so when a prediction turns out to be wrong, there's a few things you can do, right? So ultimately, the idea that provided that prediction is wrong in some degree, so you do have to do something with it. You can't just keep going with it. But if it's only off by a little, then most likely you can give it a quick little tweak and then continue on with it, right? You don't have to scrap the entire idea. That's usually what happens in science, until it can't anymore. Eventually, something might be so wrong that you just have to give up on it entirely. But for the most part, the first step is to like, okay, let's tweak the model and see if that works. And then you test it again. Then ideally, you get closer to the actual experimental result. Now, Dr. Tapioca Weasel has just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. These went to Rhea Jays, Soft B, Wayne Gaffney, RD, and I feel like I didn't say enough people. 1, 2. Maybe I'm missing someone. I feel like I must be. Well, if you are the person who got a gift subscription and I didn't say your name, please let me know. And I will start. First, yes, thank you for all of the tetrapod emojis. How could you for all of the pelagic tunicate emojis? There you go. Let's take 5 drinks. 1, 2, 3. Oh, was Chesh? Chesh got one? Why is that not showing up? Oh, because she's blue and I just kind of glanced over, like I glossed over that because she's got the blue wrench. Okay, it was Chesh. There we go. Alright, sorry about that, Chesh. My bad. Okay, 4. And 5. Okay. And then when people first started saying Chesh, I thought they were just saying hi to Chesh. I'm the worst at this. I am the worst YouTuber on the planet. Okay, that's not true. I've seen some really bad YouTubers. Goodness. I know this one guy whose entire channel is like lifting weights while he reads the Bible. And it's so weird.
That sounds like someone we might know.
I don't think you know him, mostly because like the only reason I know him is because I know like a family member of his.
I was just thinking that sounds like something Standing or Uncooked Matthew would do.
It does,
like
but this guy is significantly older than either of them, so he's definitely not either of them. I think this guy's like in his 70s.
Good for him.
Yeah, I mean, hey,
good for him then.
Way to stay active, but like
Right?
he's been lifting and doing Bible verses on his channel for like I don't know, like 8 years or something. And I'm pretty sure he's under 200 subscribers.
Well, that makes me think of the image of like, I don't know if it's a meme, but it's like, or if it's a doctor or whatever. It's like Joe Biden like lifting a weight while on the phone, and everyone something is like, yes, Your Holiness. They still think I'm senile, something like that.
Oh, okay. So Savage Cobra kind of official points out worst YouTuber, former, and with Kent Hovind, yeah. Steve Areno says mendaciously, please send me Dapper Dino pelagic tunicate emojis. Please do not do that. That is Steve Areno lying to you about what I would say. Also, Erin Roderick, who's been a member for 3 months and is at the annual level, sends a ghost emoji. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you being a member and that you've been doing it for 3 whole months. I really like that. How you got that cool top hat badge. All right, we haven't even gotten to the final badge. There's 2 more badges that people can get for memberships that no one has unlocked yet because I haven't had memberships that long. All right, here we go.
In favor of just keeping on believing in the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang model provides...
Gotta keep on believing.
Don't stop
believing.
Only hydrogen, helium, and small amounts of lithium being formed at the beginning of the Big Bang. No heavier atoms, kinds of elements, would have been formed. So population 3 stars, the old ones, the original ones, should contain only
the old ones. That's like a villain in Skyrim or something.
That's literally a term out of Lovecraft.
The old
ones. Yeah. That's okay. Well, now that we know about the Lovecraftian stars at the beginning of the universe.
Cthulhu stars.
Yes.
And traces of lithium, because no stars had been around at their time to make the heavier elements that could have gotten globbed into their dust clouds that made them.
This is a scientific term, by the way. It's globbed.
Yes. Also, I feel like at some point he should make a point about this.
The problem is it didn't produce enough of this L. I don't know.
Yeah, like, okay, the Big Bang didn't produce anything heavier than lithium in any measurable amounts.
Stars have ever been found. All stars.
Okay. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna take a drink about the Pop 3 stars having not been found. First, this talk was given before the James Webb Space Telescope, which is the first telescope that's even had a realistic possibility of looking so far into the past that can find Pop 3 stars. But here's the other problem. Pop 3 stars were probably absurdly high mass, which meant that they probably didn't last very long, which meant that the chance of observing them, even with really great telescopes like the James Webb Space Telescope, is pretty low. It didn't last very long. So, yeah, I don't know what to tell you, man. We're probably not going to see those stars. And even if we do, it'll only be with the latest cutting edge, launched on Christmas of last year type of telescopes. So, should it be terribly surprising that before we had a telescope powerful enough to even hope to look far back enough in time to find a Pop 3 star, that we hadn't found a Pop 3 star? No, not really. That doesn't really seem like a surprise. It's like, hey, guys, did you know that in 1953 no one had ever been to the bottom of the Mariana Trench? Guess that means it doesn't exist. No, that's not what that means. That's dumb. That's not how anything works.
If the Mariana Trench doesn't exist, then the Meg can't be down there. Checkmate, Megalodon.
Well, the Meg can't be down there for more reasons than that. But that's also not a reason that it can't be down there, because it turns out there is a Mariana Trench. Although, in the Meg, wasn't it like that there was like an even deeper portion of the trench that no one knew about that was below like a barrier of some kind?
There was like a thermocline. Yes, there was like a thermocline inexplicably in the Mariana Trench. And then under that thermocline was a whole nother ecosystem of giant organisms. and
Which
inexplicably,
it still had eyes for some reason.
yes, everything had eyes. There was like I swear, it's been a while since I've seen it. I only watched it like when I saw it in theaters, and then never again because I'm not a
I
masochist.
haven't even seen it that many times.
But like, I swear I remember like a giant squid, and then like gets attacked by the Meg.
Oh,
Right, that was the entrance of the Meg in the movie, and it's like, well, first of all, why does the giant squid have eyes? What is providing light down here?
okay. At least actual giant squid have eyes because they do come up to like above the photic zone in real life.
Okay, but it can't go through the thermocline. So
yeah,
it's
that giant squid
perpetually
shouldn't.
in the
Yeah,
dark.
no.
And then why does the Meg have eyes? Because he also can't go up. That was
Because no one wants to see a blind shark. We'll feel bad for it. You got to feel like it's a monster.
I mean, Greenland shark. I don't know.
No
They're
one,
a lot
no one
bigger
feels like
than you
Greenland.
think.
That, true, but no one feels like Greenland sharks are like good horror movie monsters.
I mean, I guess that's true.
I'm gonna make the first Greenland shark horror movie. It's
Promise?
gonna be a horror. It's gonna be a horror comedy though, because like the Greenland sharks, sure they're gonna eat people, but it's gonna be sort of like a Mr. Magoo mishap. Like, they're gonna just kind of wander into people and chomp on them, but it's an accident. But for some reason, like the people are stuck in like a really high Greenland shark population area in like a funnel. It just keeps leading down to the Greenland sharks, who just keep kind of bumping into people and accidentally eating.
Just like fall off a boat or something, just into the mouth
Right.
of the Greenland shark. Yeah.
All right, D Wing for $5 says, looking forward to seeing this super chat in 15 minutes when I catch up Godzilla, and we will take a drink for Godzilla. Okay, here we go.
We've ever done spectral analysis on for the elements that are in the star, absorption spectra and emission spectra. All stars have trace amounts of heavier isotopes in there. There are no population 3 stars that have ever been. That does not mean they're not out there, but we have been able to take the spectral analysis of many, many different stars. And
yeah, none of which were far enough away to expect a Pop 3 star. It's only become even vaguely possible recently.
none of them have just hydrogen, helium, and lithium. They have trace amounts of heavier isotopes in there too.
Pepper, don't you know that back then, like the iPhone like 11 hadn't existed yet, so it would never exist?
Yeah, that's how that works. Now, here's another thing, right? Have we found Pop 2 stars? Yes. Have we found Pop 1 stars? Also yes. Have we found Pop 0 stars? Also yes. Interesting how the rest of the sequence that we would expect, and that we have telescopes that could observe for a while now, have observed these populations of stars. But the only population that, again, according to Charles Jackson, we haven't really observed has been the population that would be the hardest to observe. Because they were, 1, the farthest away, and 2, lasted the least amount of time out of all 4 populations at this point. I forget, Pop 0 is a thing. Weird.
Up goes the weasel.
Yes. Alright, here we go.
The truth is, we don't understand star formation at a fundamental level. So why do so many...
No, we do. There are open questions. There are open questions in every part of science, right? Like, there are open questions in human anatomy. I do not think that we could reasonably say we don't have a fundamental understanding of human anatomy at this. We do. We really do. So I'm just going to take
There's a new muscle discovered like a few years ago.
Yeah.
Some guy published a paper. It got a big like press release about it.
Look, every once in a while a new thing about human anatomy comes up. But do you think that we don't have a fundamental, solid understanding of human anatomy? Of course we do. We know where all the major organs are, what all of them do. We know where all the major muscles are, what all of them do, all the major bones. Yeah, we'll find it, the odd muscle here or there every once in a while. That's great. That's cool. Celebrate that.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, we're not going to find, like, a new, like, trapezius muscle just hanging out somewhere. And that's just not going to happen. It's like when people are like, oh, maybe Bigfoot's out there. Look how many new species they discover every year. It's like, yeah, but 2/3 of those are tiny beetles, dude.
That's very true, yes.
Like,
And nematodes.
right. Like, these are mostly, like, tiny bits of fungus and beetles and worms and such. Like, we're not finding big primates every year. So, yeah, let's take a drink. All right, let's get a little bit more in. We're pretty close to being done.
Textbooks say that we know how stars form. I think that is a problem in science and in science education.
I hear a Mothra. We're going to take a drink from Mothra. Thanks for stopping by, Mothra. Okay, here we go.
I think science education, because that's what my doctorate is in. I've trained, 700 teachers have I trained to teach science. That's what I have. Over 6 years, I trained over 700.
That was a joke that didn't land. We're taking a drink for the Yoda impression. I still hate it whenever this guy tries to invoke nerd cred, because here's one of the things about nerds, right? Nerds like things like trivia and science and knowing cool facts about the universe. And that's like the very thing that Dr. Charles Jackson is most opposed to, is knowing more about the universe. So you know what, Charles Jackson? I'm glad you like Star Wars and Star Trek or whatever. But, when it comes to people who are actively trying to retard the progress of science and actively make people worse off, to actively misinform people, that's when I'm okay with gatekeeping nerd. You don't count. It's not because you don't know enough about nerd stuff. That's fine. It's not because you don't like the stuff enough. I don't care. It's not even because you're not a fan of nerdy things. It's because fundamentally, you were trying to bring everyone back in time to when everyone was dumber. And it's not okay. And I don't want that as being part of any fandom type community that I'm a part of. And I consider myself to be a pretty big nerd. So...
And agree. You're a big old nerd.
I am. So I'm generally not okay with gatekeeping nerddom. But if you're going to be an active drain on humanity who's trying to actually stop the progress of science, if not roll it back, yeah, that's when I will gatekeep. You can stay out of the nerd community there, Dr. Charles Jackson.
A big old non-nerd.
Yeah, we don't want you. Vandalia 1998 for $5 says, I was little, of course, so lots of things were amazing to me, but when I learned our giant sun was just a baby among stars, what did you think? So I don't actually remember when I learned that the sun was actually not all that big compared to some of the much, much bigger stars. Although it's also the case that compared to most stars, the sun is actually pretty big, because you got to remember, most main sequence stars are red dwarfs. Like, when I say most, I mean by a lot. But yeah, it was pretty amazing to think that there are stars that are basically bigger than the rest of the solar system combined. Like, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Savage Cobra Kind of Official says, you have to understand nerdy things to be a nerd. I mean, to some degree, but like, you can be like starting off in nerdy stuff and still learning, and it's fine if you want to take on that, like, identity, because that's the stuff you're into. What's not okay is when you're actively trying to harm knowledge. That's not okay. You can be an ignorant nerd. That's fine. You can be one who's just starting to get into nerdy stuff. That's fine. What you can't be, in my book, is someone fundamentally opposed to learning new things about the natural world. That's just me.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys have different standards. And maybe you're not okay with me gatekeeping Charles Jackson because of his anti-knowledge stance. That's okay, too.
I think you're fine.
Thanks.
People how to be science teachers, and I think the most valuable thing is independent thinking, curiosity, critical thinking skills, and...
That's some heavy irony that I had to drink for. But also, technically, those are all true things, so I have to drink for that too, so I guess I'll take a second drink. Dr. Charles Jackson, it is hard for me to think that you legitimately value critical thinking, skepticism, given that you think that the universe is 10,000 years old, and that almost everything that we know about in science is just nonsense, and that your reasoning for that is because your favorite book said so.
My favorite, one of my favorite Dapper quotes is, "You are not a skeptic, you are a denier."
Yeah, I said that on your channel, didn't I?
You did, in fact. You did do that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, that was when we were having a talk with a creationist, and he was like, I'm a skeptic about this. And I was just like, no, hold up.
Yeah, you roasted him.
You don't get to claim to be a skeptic on this one. And look, I stand by it. That guy wasn't a skeptic. It's fine to not be a skeptic if that's what you want to do, but don't pretend that you are just because, well, I don't believe the thing that everyone tells me. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we're going to start wrapping this up here. We got through some of this video. We still got a lot more to go. We'll be stuck with stellar formation for a while, which will give Jackson here time to brush up. Not like I don't need to brush up too. So, Jackson, do you have anything you want to announce to the people before we get out of here?
The Peacock's Tail is coming soon. Probably after I finish the final stuff. My botany students take their final this Thursday, and then just my Thursday show, I guess, and that's really it.
Okay. So, what time is the Thursday show, so people know?
That is at 7 p.m. Central Time.
That's 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
Which is real time, unlike the rest of you time-traveling heathens.
But that's also 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time.
Yeah, it's really funny, because there's this guy, this theropod, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember his name, but it's fine. We're not going to worry about it.
Okay.
This theropod, he says over and over and over about how he's not in my intro, you see. And now he is in my intro, and he doesn't ever show up. I can't, for the life of me, remember what this theropod's name is. All I remember is that he complained about not being in the intro, and now he is, and he's never there. So, all I'm saying.
How about this? I'm on a show this Thursday, a live show. I'm going to be on Hive Sciences, or... Hey, Bree, is it not Hive Science? What is it? What is it now? It was Hive Science. Now it's not. Now I don't remember what it was. Anyway, but I'm going to be on with Bree on Thursday. You know why? She gave me like a month's notice.
I do this show every Thursday. Don't give me that.
Yeah, that's not... That doesn't equate to me just hopping on whenever. I have to have a plan ahead of time, Jackson.
Why don't you carve out a Thursday for your favorite Jackson?
Well, because generally I don't want to keep working after my premiere on Thursday. Much more than like a couple hours. That's part of it.
Fine.
Because, I mean, Jackson, you are asking me to do unpaid work for you.
Sir.
I'm just saying.
Sir.
This is what I do.
What am I doing right now? What am I doing right now?
That's true, but I always give you at least a week's heads up. And I say, do you want to?
Well, I'm not going to turn your show down because I happen to like you and I enjoy your company and
I do as well. But I definitely can't be there every week. And if you want me there in a particular week, give me a heads up. You don't have to be there. You don't have to be there every week. I wouldn't ask anybody to be there every week. Ask me ahead of time.
You're a nerd.
And then once there's enough time and I can carve it out and write it down on a schedule, then yeah. It's not that hard to book me onto a show. But if it's just a standing invitation, I'm probably going to decline more often than not.
You hate me. That's what this is.
It's exactly what it is. That's why I have you on like every month.
Oh.
All right, everybody. Let's take a look at what's coming up on my channel. So, on Thursday, the 27th of April, 2023... we will be having the third and final episode of Sal's Pal.
Nice.
Steve Reno says, give this to good Jackson, bad Dapper, for $2. What does that even come out to? I don't even know. I guess it comes out to $1.40. Jackson, if you feel like I owe you $1.40, let me know.
You know what? When I see you next time, how about you just buy me a drink or something? I don't know.
Yes, and then you can sign my book.
All right, fair enough.
That I own. All right,
Yes,
so
that's
that's on the 27th. The 29th, I'm currently planning it to be a Dapper Reacts. I have a tentative yes from Vishanti for that date. I will be checking back with her on the 27th or 28th to make sure that that is a more firm yes. Then, let's see. On the 4th? Well, so on the 2nd, it should be Kent with Bent. On the 4th, there should be the ICR lies about dinosaurs. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Not the right thing to do. That should be the next thing. Let me just double check to make sure I have all this right. Yes, so the 27th is already scheduled for Entropy Disproves Evolution, Sal's Pal 3 out of 3. Then ICR Lies About Dinosaurs, the movie, on May 4th. And then there will probably be another Dapper Reacts on May 6th. That's all 2023. With that, guys...
Your response videos to oh goodness, Genetic Entropy guy, John Sanford, are really good.
Thank you.
Highly recommend.
Yeah, I enjoyed... Did I enjoy the script writing? I enjoy how they came out. How about that?
Does anyone?
Yeah, well... It was a frustrating script writing episode, but that's how it always is. But with that, guys,
That's true.
Thank you very much. Jackson, I, as always, appreciate it, and I will always make sure to give you at least a week or so heads up.
Oh, thanks.
On these.
I really appreciate you too, Dapper. Even if you don't come on my show.
I do come on your show. When I have like enough time to make that as a plan.
You know what that sounds like? That sounds like a thing a nerd would say.
I am a nerd. That's accurate. All of that makes sense to me. All right, everybody, thank you for coming. Thank you for all your super chats. Thank you for your memberships, gifted memberships, likes, shares, all that stuff. And I will see you, hopefully, on Thursday. Thanks for watching, but before you go, I just want to say a special thank you to my channel members and my patrons, especially those pledging $20 or above. Bob Knob, Work in Progress, Benthoven, Tapioca Weasel, Danny5252, Eleron Teller, Furavara, Ian Chen, Landon Knoll, Mabdy Babby, San, Sphincter of Doom, The Venerable Bead, Scriptic Mystic, Dr. Tapioca Weasel, and Pat L. Dennis. As you probably know, YouTube is a very volatile platform, and from month to month my income on the channel can swing wildly. But the people you see on screen are directly supporting so that I don't have to worry too much about that, and the channel can keep going as it is, and perhaps even improving. If you'd like to join this team, there are links below to join the channel or in the description to join the Patreon. The Patreon starts as low as $1 a month, and the channel memberships start as low as $1.99 a month. On Patreon, you can even get a discount for pledging annually. If you do decide to pledge, you'll get access to an exclusive Discord server just for channel supporters, as well as early access to all of my pre-recorded videos, often up to 2 months in advance. Higher tiers will unlock even better perks. Now, if an annual or monthly pledge isn't right for you, but you still want to support the channel, there is a merch store down in the description, as well as an Amazon wishlist, just for me. And if financial support isn't something you can or want to do, then if you still want to help out the channel, please just like and share these videos and make sure you comment on them. It really helps the channel out. Thanks again for watching.